right along with taxes, death, taxes, and new California laws. We've got a lot of new laws that are on the books here, and we're going to go through them. If there's one in particular that you are extremely interested, let me know, because I'm trying not to go into too much depth on all of them because there's so many of them. Seems like that our lawmakers, they got a lot of free pens, and they've been writing a lot of stuff over the year. We'll start out with SB 3, which is the minimum wage. Raises the state minimum wage to $13 an hour for workplaces with 26 or more employees, $12 for workplaces with fewer than 26 employees. And it outlines in incremental minimum wage increases through 2023 when it'll reach $15 an hour for all workplaces. Probably hurts nonprofits the worst. And of course, you know who's going to get to pay for all this, right? You are. Most of fast food restaurants now have started putting in kiosks, right, for you to enter into your thing. And they're doing that because labor is getting more expensive. AB 5 classifies some independent contractors as employees. It says that it aims for protection of so-called gig economy workers, such as minimum wage, paid sick days, health insurance benefits. I don't believe it. Organizations representing freelance journalists have already sued over the law, and Uber said it will not adhere to the changes. So we're going to start seeing some contestants of this law, because this really is a way of putting a lot of people onto the books of companies so that they are able to get certain benefits. But again, it raises the cost of doing business, which is, what?
The state's looking for taxes.
Well, the state's looking for taxes. I think that's true.
These guys won't, a lot of people don't, you're a 1099 employee, a lot of people don't file their income that they earn, they don't report it. So they're looking for employers to report their income, and then plus the employers have to pay the labor tax. They have to pay all the,
Well, like we said in the last discussion, there's never been a tax that a bureaucrat hasn't loved.
The state's looking for all the taxes that they're not getting.
AB 9 for employment discrimination allows employees up to 3 years to file complaints for discrimination, harassment, retaliation with the State Department of Fair Employment and Housing. Previously, they only had 1 year. I'm not sure exactly what this does, but there you go. This one I think is an interesting one. It requires employers, SB 142, to provide clean and safe lactation rooms for breastfeeding mothers. Now, we had quite a mix of employees, male and female, where I used to work, but I never saw any with babies. Take your babies to work. So who were they providing these for? I don't really understand. It's supposed to be free of intrusion, provide access to sink and a refrigerator in close proximity to the employee's workplace, and require employers to offer mothers breaks specifically for nursing. I don't understand this. This has got to be yes.
Places that offer daycare for their employees.
What?
Companies that offer daycare as a benefit for their employees.
Well, maybe that's true. Maybe some employers do, but I don't think the majority of them do. Well, I don't know. That's okay. Then you know what? When you do things like that, they may decide not to supply that anymore. It's an interesting thing. This one I think is comical. SB 188 protects employee from racial. Now that was right in there. Racial discrimination because of hairstyles, such as afros, braids, twists, and locks. So let me get this straight. If you have an afro and you're white, it doesn't apply? But if you have an afro and you're black, it does? Because it's a racial discrimination? I don't know. this one is bound to, we're going to see this in the news, all right? California is the first state to ban such practices. I think that our legislators have way too much time on their hands. SB 83, paid leave. Increases paid leave from 6 to 8 weeks for people taking care of a seriously ill family member or bond with a new child. I'm old enough to remember when we got no family leave, right? And it takes effect July 1st, 2020. 2020. It takes effect July 1st, 2020, and we'll see how this thing works. But it's just another increase in the cost of doing business. AB 51, mandatory arbitration. Outlaws mandatory arbitration for workplace issues. So in other words, your employee can't, as a condition of employment say, you're going to accept mandatory arbitration. It says about 2/3 of California non-union private sector workplaces have mandatory arbitration policies. You know what? My wife was I was never a union employee. My wife was a union employee, and her union used mandatory arbitration. I don't understand what this is really trying to say. But a federal judge has blocked it. And so this is another one. This is one I think we're going to see boil up to the Supreme Court. And because evidently something about the previous decisions restrict state governments from banning the agreements. We'll see what happens. I never saw mandatory arbitration in the Constitution, so I know that wasn't it, but that's okay. All right, here you go. Smoking at state beaches. Ban smoking on all state beaches and parks. All right. You get a fine of $25 if you violate it, and it makes it illegal to litter. Wasn't it already illegal to litter? I don't understand that one. SB 313, circus cruelty prevention. Bans the use of exotic animals like elephants in circus acts. Only allows dogs, cats, and domesticated horses. This says that in California, you will not be able to take your child or grandchild to the circus because there won't be one. So expect, if you want to do something like this, and I thought circuses were kind of fun when I was a little kid, right? And you got to see all those animals and stuff. And you know what? Maybe there were some people that were cruel to animals, but I would think that was some that weren't. I don't understand it. This one is the best. AB 1249. Animal testing on cosmetics. Bans the import and sale of cosmetics products in California, which includes ingredients that were tested on animals or manufactured through animal testing. I don't understand how you can manufacture something through animal testing. But anyway, that goes through. You know what this is going to do? We are now going to have a black market on cosmetics. Right? Or, everybody's going to take their trip to Vegas once a year to buy cosmetics. That's absurd. That's ridiculous, right? That is. AB 12. Commonly called a red flag law, gun violence restraining orders. Typically now, the way the law was prior to this, the police or your immediate family member or your roommate can request the restraining order. In other words, they say, you know what, you exhibit some behavioral, I'm afraid of you, or you might hurt yourself, so then you can go to a judge, get this restraining order, and take firearms away temporarily, supposedly. But now they want to expand this to employers, co-workers, teachers to be able to do so. Now, I don't know what makes these people. It's just an expansion, and it's just a gun rights issue, and I'm sure we'll see this in court as well. Juvenile hall minimum age. I don't know what the juvenile hall minimum age was before. Do you know? But now they're saying if you're below 12, we can't send you to juvenile hall. We got to send you back to your parents. And below 12, and then if you're 12 years old or above, you can go to juvenile hall, providing you're not being charged with murder, rape, or creating great bodily harm. We'll pardon you later. I think that's what happens in the deal. But this is, so I'm not sure what this really changes, but that's what it said. AB 32 bans private for-profit prisons. Bans California from keeping prisoners in private for-profit prisons and immigrant detention centers. Takes effect in 2028. And California will not renew any contracts that come due after January 1st, 2020. Well, does this mean that the state is going to have to build more prisons?
They're going to have to take them over.
Huh?
They're going to have to take them over.
Or buy them? Right? I mean, I'm not sure what this does, other than put more state employees in there who make more money than the employees that are there now. It's interesting. AB 218, childhood sexual assaults, statute of limitations. So if you were sexually assaulted as a juvenile, you used to have up to 23 years of age or 3 years from the discovery that you were abused. I can hardly believe that somebody that was sexually abused as a child didn't know about it until they were 23 or 24 or 25. It's a little hard for me to believe. But anyway, now, don't worry about it, because now you have until you're 40 or 5 years from the discovery that your sexual abuse occurred. Okay. This one I love. This is one of my favorite. I'm curious. Does anybody know what deflake is? Deflake? Come on, Pat. Steve, you're a no.
I have no idea.
Deep fake porn lawsuits.
Flake or fake?
Deep fake porn lawsuits requires consent from a person before their likeness can be digitally reproduced in porn. Provides people whose likeness was used in a deep fake porn option to sue in civil court. What the hell are you talking about? Deep fake porn, what is that?
Grabbing your picture off the internet and manipulating it so you don't have any clothes on and you look like you're, working in a porn film.
Deep fake is an advanced technique. This is the definition of deep fake. An advanced technique for human image synthesis based on artificial intelligence. Now, I'm sure you all know exactly what it is,
Yes.
right? You're shaking your head back there. I thought for sure that would give you the clue. No?
Oh, Lord.
It's an AI-assisted fake swapping app that allows you to put another person's face on another person's body and then put it into, and you can do that. You can put it out on the internet. That's okay, but as long as it's not porn. Then it's deepfake porn, and AB 602 is going to get you. I don't understand. SB 273, domestic violence statute of limitations, extends the statute of limitations for reporting domestic violence to law enforcement from 1 year to 5 years. And in this case, you know what? There are people that are victims of domestic violence and they're reluctant to report them. So any domestic violence would occur on or after January the 1st, 2020. It applies to them, or crimes where the domestic violence was, the statute of limitations was in effect and had not run out. So if the statute of limitations was in effect on you, then this will extend it to the 5 years, even though it's after, or it occurred before January the 1st, 2020. They probably could have said, so it would have, in order for that to occur, it had to occur after January 1st, 2019, right? 1 year. Okay, that's just crazy. All right, requires additional law enforcement training. We have to train our law enforcement. in de-escalation techniques. Okay, I'll go for that. And interviewing victims separately from the subject. How long does it take to train somebody and tell them you should not interview someone along with this? Would that training take at least?
It takes a while. They have all kinds of protocols and procedures and.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems to me that's pretty.
One of them is get down to their level. Don't stand over them like this and talk to them.
When take them away.
When you're interviewing somebody like that.
No. Now, this is not just interview techniques. This is that you need to interview the victim separate from the subject. So you don't.
I know, yeah.
So you need to take them away from the.
Right, but if you're interviewing the victim, don't stand up like a big burly man talking to him. My brother was a cop. Bend down to get you.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yes, it is, victims.
And interviewing victims separately from. Well, okay, all right, okay, all right, okay. All right, SB 419, school suspension. You mean they haven't been taught that before?
It's part of the FBI scams unit out here,
All right.
the whole training and everything.
School suspension prohibits schools, including charter schools, from suspending students for willful defiance. Students may be suspended for violence or bringing a weapon or drugs on campus, but for just defying you, they can't do it. So I don't know what you do with them, right? So someone in the back of your classroom sits there and is disruptive and makes noise and does all kinds of stuff, but it's not violent, then you just got to put up with it?
Who wants to go into teaching anymore?
Well, it's hard to go into almost anything in California anymore. Students in grade 9 through 12 can still be suspended for willful defiance, but not expelled. Okay, you suspend them for, okay. And the law goes into effect on July the 1st, 2020. SB 354, grants for dreamers. We all know what dreamers are, right? Okay. For graduate programs, expand the Dreamers Loan Program. Dreamers and undocumented youth who were brought to the United States as children, enrolled in programs for a professional or graduate degree at a public university, may apply for state-funded grants. No? Okay. But if you're a citizen, no. All right, here's the one that we're just talking about before the meeting started. AB 1482, rent cap. We did a big presentation about this last year, right at the end of last year. It allows for yearly rent increases of up to 5% each year plus inflation. So basically what they're saying is currently you can raise the rents 8% a year. And you know what? When you tell people that's the amount that you can do, they'll probably do it. And so it doesn't take very long before your rent doubles. And we showed you those spreadsheets that showed you what was happening. And they admitted that this might prevent people from investing money and building. So they said, well, it doesn't apply if your building is 15 years or younger. Only if it's older than 15 years. And it requires the landlord to provide just cause for evictions. So now, today, Rick was showing me a news clip from Newhall. And what did they do in Newhall? The company bought all of the senior housing, or they bought some of the senior housing. They bought one of the senior buildings or all the senior buildings. Do you know? Okay. Anyway, what they did was they doubled the rents.
It was called Whispering Oaks Apartment.
You have the email in your inbox too, just like he does.
So they doubled it, and then they started evictions. So, but what about this law? The law said you couldn't raise the rents over and above 5% plus inflation from what it was in the middle of last year. So we'll see what happened. This is going to be interesting. The bad part about this is they didn't identify anybody in the law or any mechanism in the law to decide who was going to enforce it.
Do anything about
So here's something where is an opportunity to write Scott Wilk, Christy Smith, the governor, and anybody else you can think of, that this is just absolutely wrong. And we'll see. I think the biggest thing now to do is to go talk to our elected officials and start bugging them about it. Right? It's they wrote the law, they passed it. They ought to have the teeth in it to go do what they got to do. SB 652, display of religious items, prohibits property owners from stopping you to put religious items on a door frame of a dwelling. So I guess you can put a cross on your door, put a mezuzah on your wall. I don't know what that is. I didn't think that was that big of a problem right now. AB 539. Oh, this is a great one. Interest rate cap. Caps interest rates at 36% above the U.S. Federal Reserve main interest rate. So you can charge somebody something like a 38% interest on a $2,500 to $10,000 loan. Anybody that's borrowing $2,500 is somebody who doesn't have any money. So you're going to take the poorest people and put the highest interest rate on it and say that's okay? Doesn't sound like a cap to me. And then they claim it prevents predatory lending? Are you kidding me? Domestic partnership law, SB 30. Expands domestic partnership to provide heterosexual couples an alternate to marriage. So right before this law passed, by the way, if you were a senior, you could get a domestic partnership agreement. But if you were not, you could not.
There was an age limit on that originally.
Yes.
Registered domestic partners, you had to be same sex until you were 62. Anybody after 62, you could have different sex partners.
Okay. So it was 62. All right.
They probably just cut the age.
Now all ages. Help some couples avoid the federal marriage penalty. They claim California law treats domestic partners as married couples as the same, right?
Right.
Federal law does not recognize domestic partner. So we'll see what this is all about. I don't know what to say. Maternal mental health care coverage, AB 577. Expands mental health care coverage for Medi-Cal patients to 1 year from 60 days. And that's all.